everybody. Welcome back. It's, of course, another episode of Cape Rugby TV, where every week we take a look at what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby. Nice to have you along. Of course, the Score Energy Drink Sevens competition, you see a score behind me there now, started this weekend. We're going to talk about that in a second, myself and Jerome Paardewater. But, of course, before we get going, big thanks, of course, our partners on board. As you can see behind me there, MChem 24-hour pharmacy on the corner of N1 and Durban Road. We'll take a look at some of MChem's highlights a little bit later. Score Energy Drinks. Well, of course, as you know, Score's on board with Western Province Rugby and the Western Province Club Rugby Sevens. That started this weekend. And, of course, Decro Paints. We're going to talk a little bit about Decro during the course of the show. Of course, Decro on board now with Cape Rugby TV. But, yes, there you see behind me, Score Energy Drinks. Massive weekend for Western Province Club Rugby. We're going to take a look at some of the highlights from the venues at Kraaifontein, and or at least some of the matches at Kraaifontein. We'll talk about the logs, the results, and the fixtures, all for the Western Province Score Club Rugby Sevens. Jerome Paardewater, nice to have you back, meneer.
Yeah, JP, it's good to be back, and it's good to see that the rugby still continue and the guys are still playing sevens, and it's also good to see a lot of new faces playing, because we used to the old faces which we see every Saturday. It's good that I think it's good that the coaches take the initiative and use some younger guys and let them play and have some fun.
Yeah, you were, of course, I mean, this is quite a few, I think this is what now, 7 years?
Yeah.
7 years
Yeah.
of Score
Yeah.
Club Rugby Sevens. It's a fantastic way to keep the clubs together.
Yeah, and like I say, it's good. And I mean, I think after the World Cup final, we won't see people at the game, but it's good to see people at Kraaifontein, and good to see a crowd at Goodwood also.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that say that this is probably maybe the world's biggest Club Rugby Sevens of this format. 40 teams, which means that you've got just over 800 players. I mean, this is absolutely enormous.
No, it's big, yeah, it's big. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons, because we need the fields. That's why it can't be at one venue sort of. We would have loved to have it at one venue,
Yeah.
but so many teams.
Yeah, how much organising goes into that, now that you bring it up? How much organising goes into that? Because I think you've got, if we just looked at one of the venues, like Kraaifontein, for example, there were almost 70 fixtures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look. As you were saying, it's for the last 7 years that they've been doing it. So I think Faisal, Denzel, and Sean and Semi, the guys, basically the admin guys at the union, they're doing a good job, but they're getting better each year. So Faisal said, like, things run smoothly because they know the system. They have the people that work at the gate. They have the runners giving the people the score after the games. So you can see it's smooth how it runs. So after each game they get the refreshments and whatever, and it's just running smooth. It's just like the people also, it's the same sort of people who work at the Seven, so they know the system.
Yeah, well, we've got a whole string of different teams and highlights to look at, and of course, folks, take it from me now, you are going to struggle a little bit to identify the teams and the jerseys, because one of the big things about the Score Sevens is that the teams get to design their own jerseys, and of course then, Jerome, one of the things about the competition is that the fact that the jerseys for the Score competition is a special deal for the clubs, and that's really fantastic for them that they can then use these jerseys again next year. You then have a full set.
Yeah, it's good. We had a meeting Monday, and we were talking about it. Like, one good thing is, like, you can't just get the jerseys. You must play in the Sevens, because some of the clubs try to just get the jerseys but don't play. So that's also good. So you have to play in the Sevens because I mean it's a good price that they get the jerseys for, and they get to keep the jerseys. And I mean during the league you can see some of them play in the jerseys, which is good.
No, it is amazing. Right, folks, well, let's take a look just at some of the highlights here. The first one we're going to take a look at, and we're just sharing some clips with you. St. George's up against Whistling Wheels. folks. Just a couple of highlights there from St. George's and Whistling Wheels. Jerome, the thing about sevens, though, is the speed at which it happens. And there's obviously a big difference here between 15s and sevens rugby. When you look at it like this, can you see the distinct difference between two teams, or are we just seeing running rugby?
Look, the one good thing about this is also you get, like you see now, St. George's were playing Whistling Wheels, and St. George's are playing in the top league, and Whistling Wheel playing a little bit down. So one good thing is that you can, for a club like Whistling Wheels to play against St. George's, it's good to play. And you can also see, like Whistling Wheels, sevens is almost like the playing fields are almost level. So Whistling Wheels, I mean, they lost the game, but they were still competitive. It's just on the day, like St. George's, obviously they know sevens and they play a lot of tens rugby. Yeah. That's sort of their game. So they like to keep the ball in hand, whatever. If it's tough for a team like Whistling Wheels if they don't have the ball, but when they have the ball, you can see the speed that they play, and you can see they put some effort into the game also.
Yeah. How much of a difference does physicality make in sevens rugby? Because in some of the games I was seeing that it didn't really matter what size you were. They were throwing the ball around and handing off the ball and passing to each other, and it was all about finding space. But then some of the other games, I saw that some of the players would, for example, physically hand off a player while they were busy handing over the ball, and in other words, sort of grabbing a player, and being like, you could see that if they were strong, they were able to draw one or two players with them, and then their skill would be the handoff.
Yeah, that's good, but I mean, I think this is why a lot of people go watch the sevens, because after watching the World Cup, I think people are it's almost like sort of stamka rugby, that you have to run it up, but watching the sevens now, yeah, you get your bigger guys and you get your stronger guys, but it's so nice to see the skills of the guy, and you see the sort of smaller guy, the pace that they play, how they handle the ball. I think we've been watching, like I said, we've been watching the World Cup now, so it's nice to go out and watch the sevens and how they play and use the space, because it's a whole field with seven players on the field. So it's, for me, on the day the team, even if a team lose, but if you see how they play and how they use the skill and how they use the width of the field, I think that's what we want to see in the sevens.
Yeah, well, it is very exciting at the moment, folks. If you get down, the Score Sevens is currently happening at the Goodwood Rugby Fields as well as the Kraaifontein Rugby Fields. So 2 different venues. You should be able to find one that is close enough for you. 40 teams, 3 regions across 6 different pools. So we're going to take a look at those logs, the results, and fixtures after the break. Of course, every field at least having just in excess of, well, close on 70 games. So lots of action. Remember, you can, of course, follow us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Cape Rugby TV. But yes, this weekend, the Score Energy Drinks competition, Club Sevens, continues. Make sure that you get down there. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll carry on talking about club rugby and the sevens in a sec. So don't go away.